If this happens, altcoins are about to crash. It's clearly Bitcoin season, but for how much longer? If we see altcoins crash in September and October, I think we'll see a bull run in 2025. Welcome to Crypto Code by ICN.talks, where we attempt to crack the code on some of the coolest investments that are happening in our space. We'll look at some of the hottest narratives and trends and some of the coolest teams that are building amazing things in our industry that not a lot of people are talking about. Our mission is to get you thinking about some of the hottest investment opportunities that are happening right now. My name is Kareem, and I've been investing in the space since 2017, since the wild west of the ICO craze. I've seen incredible projects fly, some crash and burn. I've even seen some crimes and fraud along the way. This is my third cycle. I've also been working in the Web3 startup ecosystem for the past 2 years on amazing accelerator programs supporting and investing startups building in the Web3 industry. I've now partnered up with ICN to bring you the hottest and latest news and events that are happening in our space. And a friendly reminder, none of this is financial advice. This is purely for entertainment to keep you up to date on some of the coolest things being built in our industry today. So please, always do your own research. And with all that being said, let's get started. We'll start off the series by analyzing crypto prices and predictions. We've had a very interesting year so far. We started off 2024 with Bitcoin at $42,000. We've then seen its all-time high at $73,000. Bitcoin has been choppy for the past couple of months. We've seen it fluctuating between 50 and 60K. So what's going on? Well, I think things are actually bullish. And here's why. First, let's look at the Fear and Greed Index. We can see that there's fear sentiment across the market right now. And what we've seen previously is the best time to invest is when there's fear in the market. I also like to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. If we pull up that chart and look at it from the beginning of the year until now, we'll see it trending upwards to 57%. Why does Bitcoin dominance matter? Because I know a lot of degens, and trust me, I used to be one. If you want your altcoin portfolio to do really well, you're gonna have to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. The biggest disaster for altcoins is that when Bitcoin dominance is up, and Bitcoin price goes down, you'll see a crash across the altcoin market. And if you're an altcoin investor, you're probably not going to like what I'm going to say next. It is not altcoin season. We are currently in Bitcoin season. I also believe this upcoming cycle is going to be dominated by Bitcoin. This is quite different from previous cycles where we saw altcoins shoot up much higher than Bitcoin. I think the major difference this time around is regulations and investors being a little bit more careful with their capital. A lot of experts believe we're at the end of the accumulation period, and a lot of the market makers have been accumulating. So a good strategy usually is to follow what the market makers are doing. Now let's dive a little deeper on why experts think altcoins are going to crash in September and October before seeing a bull run in 2025. If we see altcoins crash in September and October, there's a positive sign that alt season is just around the corner. But a lot of experts don't think that we've hit the bottom of altcoins just yet. So let's see what happens over the next couple of months, be diligent and wait for the right time to realize that it is altcoin season. Again, experts still believe that Bitcoin is going to shine for a lot longer before the altcoin season comes. So let's begin by looking at why everyone thinks that altcoins are going to be in the red for the next couple of months. First, we're hearing that the Fed is going to cut rates in September, but the biggest question is, by how much? Experts believe it's only going to be a quarter-point reduction, but if we want to see a major impact in our industry, it's going to have to be at least a half-point reduction. So let's see what the Fed ends up doing. Another point to consider is that every time the Fed cut rates, it took time for the markets to bounce. If history repeats itself, there's going to be a hard landing just around the corner and altcoins are going to crash. Next up, let's pull up the Bitcoin monthly returns chart to see what's going to happen in the next few months. Historically, Bitcoin has seen price drops in September, which coincidentally aligns with the Fed rate cuts. But what's great to see in the chart is that October, November, December are usually green months. So let's say we do see an altcoin crash in the next few months. When will altcoin season then be? If you look at sentiment across YouTube and Twitter, a chart that gets used a lot is the ETH to BTC chart. This chart has traditionally been a great indicator for how altcoins will perform because ETH is considered to be the Mac Daddy of altcoins. Also historically, if we look at the chart from 2020 to around December 2021, you'll see the ETH BTC was doing really well. And when that happens, usually you'll see altcoin season just following right with it. We've seen it again in 2022, but if you look at the chart from the beginning of this year until now, it's actually been trending downwards. This could only mean that it is Bitcoin season. So the big question is, when is Bitcoin season going to end? When are we going to see the bottom of the ETH to BTC trend? So as soon as you start to see a bounce back in ETH to BTC for a prolonged period of time, that could be when altcoin season is back. And a lot of experts believe that's going to be in 2025. One last point to note is we're at the end of the 4-year cycle. So keep your fingers crossed, silver lining is just around the horizon and hopefully we'll see the bull market in 2025. Next up, the latest developments with the arrest of Pavel Durov, the billionaire founder of Telegram. The app has developed a reputation of being end-to-end encrypted, so a lot of governments are getting annoyed with this. On its website, Telegram notes that because its servers are scattered around the world, we can ensure that no single government can intrude on people's privacy and freedom of expression. But it's true, the lack of content moderation on the app has made it very easy for criminals to do a lot of this activity. But how does that differ from Facebook or Instagram or YouTube? A lot of criminals use those as well. So why was Durov singled out and arrested? It could be that governments around the world are just being alarmed by how big these social media platforms are getting. I mean, look at TikTok in the US. Durov also mentioned in a recent interview that he had a very small team, which makes it very difficult for them to kind of control the content on there. So what happens next? I believe there's going to be more regulations from governments around these social media apps and how they're used. I lived in China for 10 years where everyone's ID was linked to their social media accounts. I'll just leave it there. Let's now shift into crypto gaming. What's happening? What's new? First and foremost, Sony has announced the launch of its own blockchain. It's an Ethereum layer 2, which is a very interesting choice. I can't wait to see some of Sony's AAA games being built onto the network. They also just announced their incubation program, which is worth looking at. It's called Spark. Samsung Next, the venture capital arm, will be investing alongside Sony and some of these cool projects building on that chain. It seems they're going to invest $100,000 to projects that join the program. But let's be real, Sonium is entering a space that is very competitive. We have a lot of layer 2 players already. One of the most prominent ones is Base, backed by Coinbase. They recently hit 1 million active addresses. Polygon is another layer 2 being used by so many developers today. There's even rumors that BlackRock is preparing their own layer 2, but we'll leave that for another video. So how big is the crypto gaming industry today? Some experts say it's $30 billion. I think it's going to grow way beyond that in the next 3 to 5 years. So which chains should we be looking at and focusing on? Immutable has been performing very well, and it's a chain that you should be looking at because a lot of the games are building on it. They recently also announced a $100 million fund to support games being built on Immutable. The next chain is Ronin. We all saw what happened in the past, but it seems that it just made them stronger and better today. They have a diehard community, and one of the games, Kydro Chronicle, is doing so well. Go check it out. Next up is Solana. I mean, Solana is incredibly strong. They have a huge ecosystem and partnership across the world. Their meme coins are very popular. There's a huge comeback for games being built on Solana, and they're really supporting developers who are building on it. Finally, let's take a look at Avalanche. Avalanche has some epic games coming up in the lineup. Shrapnel is a AAA game being built on AVAX today that you should look out for. I look forward to seeing more games being built on Avalanche. Finally, I'm super bullish on RWAs. Let's talk about it. Sergey Nazarov, the founder of Chainlink, was quoted as saying, "Real-world assets will flip cryptocurrency for total value over the next 1 to 3 years." He believes a lot of that value is going to come from the TradFi banking sector. He doesn't think that DeFi will kill TradFi. He actually thinks that TradFi will become the biggest users of DeFi. Experts believe that mass adoption is going to happen in the next 1 to 2 years. And it's believed that a lot of these institutions are going to use a mix of private and public blockchains. The RWA trend has now surpassed DeFi. It's growing rapidly. BlackRock and other institutions are getting into the game. And what's really cool is that a lot of developers from fintech and traditional finance are also super excited to build on this. So how do we move from where we are today to the next level? The industry is starting to build a set of standards that allow data to be moved across chains very easily. Experts believe that the success of a real-world asset lies in the liquidity and the purchasing power to purchase it. So who are some of the biggest players in this space? Chainlink is going to play a pivotal role in all of this because they act as the intermediary to send data across chains. The Chainlink community of developers are building amazing technology to make this all happen behind the scenes, from bonds, securities, to even buildings. Next up is Avalanche. Avalanche has designed a specific custom L1 called Evergreen, which is being used by institutions today. They've onboarded some of the biggest names like JP Morgan to tokenize alternative assets as well as liquid assets. They also worked with ANZ Banking Group and Chainlink to tokenize some of their assets on the Avalanche chain. Over the years, XDC Network has been building a chain specifically for RWAs. Some of their projects like ICN.fin and TradeFinex have been really big in this space. Japan's SBI Group even announced a huge partnership with XDC to build on their network. We're going to explore a lot more chains and projects building in this space, so stay tuned. And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news, check out ICN.live, our flagship ecosystem product. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like and subscribe button if you found it interesting. See you on the next one.